All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today's deep dive takes us into the heart of Maratha society between 1674 and 1818. But we're not just talking about battles and treaties this time.
No, not at all.
This time, we're uncovering the fascinating world of Maratha folklore.
Indeed.
It's like peeking through a secret window, right?
Right.
Into their beliefs, their fears, their dreams.
Exactly. Their hopes for the future. Folklore is a powerful lens through which to view a society, especially one like the Marathas who faced such immense pressures. And that's where our expert comes in, someone who can help us decode these stories and understand what they really tell us. I'm happy to be here. You see, when we look at Maratha society during this period, what strikes us is the vital role of oral tradition and folklore.
Oh, absolutely.
This wasn't just about entertainment. These stories were tools, powerful tools.
Tools for what?
For transmitting history, values, cultural identity, all especially crucial in a time of constant upheaval and change.
Like their history books were actually living, breathing stories passed down through generations.
You got it. And remember, widespread literacy wasn't really a thing back then.
Right.
So these stories, passed down from one generation to the next, became the primary way to preserve their heritage, their memories. They were a way to inspire future generations to keep fighting for their identity.
Like a cultural lifeline woven from shared memories. Amazing. And you know what else I find fascinating? It wasn't just about preserving the past.
Wow.
These stories, especially the ones about figures like Shivaji, actually fueled nationalist sentiment much later, even into the 19th century.
Exactly. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
The seeds of resistance planted by those Maratha stories bloomed again generations later in the form of Bengali novels.
Oh, really?
These novels drew upon Maratha chronicles and heroic figures to stir up resistance against British rule.
Wow, so those tales transcended their time. They became blueprints for resistance.
Precisely. That's the incredible thing about these narratives. They offered a way to resist oppression that echoed across time.
Chills. Okay, so let's get to the actual stories themselves. Were there specific legends or ballads that really captured that Maratha spirit of defiance?
Absolutely. There are tons. But one that immediately comes to mind highlights their incredible strategic brilliance. It takes place during Aurangzeb's reign when Shivaji's son, Rajaram, was up against the might of the Mughal army.
Okay.
Now, instead of engaging in a head-on confrontation, the Marathas decided to retreat.
Retreat.
But this wasn't a cowardly retreat. They strategically withdrew into the dense forests and mountain forts of the Deccan.
Ah, so they used the terrain to their advantage.
Yeah.
I bet that frustrated the Mughals.
Oh, absolutely. This tactic, known as Ganimi Kava, turned into this epic game of hide-and-seek. The Marathas would launch these swift raids, disappear back into the landscape, then strike again when the enemy least expected it.
Guerrilla warfare. Classic.
Precisely. And it wasn't just a fictional invention either.
Right.
The Marathas were famous for their mastery of the Deccan terrain. And this story just underscores their resourcefulness, how they used their knowledge of the land to resist these massive empires.
Always thinking outside the box. That's incredible. And speaking of fascinating things in these stories, I was really struck by the symbolic roles of women in Maratha folklore.
Oh, absolutely.
They represent so much more than just characters, wouldn't you say?
They do. It's like they become these powerful symbols embodying abstract concepts.
Like what?
Language, region, even India itself. You've got the goddess Tamul Tai, for example.
Right, representing the Tamil language. And then there's the fascinating contrast between Queen Nagri for Hindi
Yes.
and Begum Urdu, highlighting the linguistic and I think also cultural pensions at the time.
Exactly. These symbolic representations show us how ideas of community and national identity were changing during that era.
And then you have Bengal, often personified as this nurturing mother.
Of course. And we can't forget the powerful image of Bharat Mata
Mother India.
emerging during this period as well. These figures gave a face, a personality to these big abstract ideas.
It's so clever, isn't it? It makes you wonder how these female symbols might have influenced the actual roles and perceptions of women in Maratha society.
A fascinating question, for sure. It makes you think about the relationship between symbolism and reality.
Yeah, like how those representations might have empowered or even limited women. There are so many layers to uncover here.
Absolutely. There's always more beneath the surface. And as we explore those layers, we need to talk about something else that was clearly at play. The rising tension between religious communities.
You're talking about Hindus and Muslims.
Yes. The sources definitely point to this growing divide during this period.
And it seems like those tensions unfortunately found their way into some of the narratives, too.
That's right. For example, with Hindu nationalism on the rise, some stories started to portray past Muslim rulers as oppressive tyrants.
Ah, I see.
And naturally, that provoked a response. Muslim writers, in turn, highlighted the achievements and the cultural richness of Islamic rule.
In India and beyond.
Exactly. It's important to remember that even folklore, as beautiful and wise as it can sometimes reflect these darker sides of society.
And, in some cases, even contribute to those divisions. It's a reminder that we need to be careful about how we interpret these stories, right? To always consider the context.
You're absolutely right. These stories are like a mirror reflecting both the harmony and the discord within a society. To understand them, we have to acknowledge the historical context, how different communities use narratives to shape their own identities.
It really underscores the importance of approaching history with nuance. There are always multiple perspectives, multiple interpretations of events.
Precisely. These cultural narratives invite us to look beyond simple versions of the past.
To embrace the complexity. And that's what makes studying them so enriching.
Absolutely. It's like we're piecing together a giant puzzle.
With each story, each symbol, each character adding another layer of understanding.
And what I find truly incredible is how these stories have managed to survive for centuries.
I know, right? Passed down through generations despite all the upheaval and change. How is that even possible?
It's a testament to the power of oral storytelling, to that deep connection people have to their heritage.
Yeah.
Even today, these narratives continue to shape cultural understanding and identity within Maratha communities. It's like a living link between past and present.
That's just amazing. So they're not just relics of the past, Ben. These stories are still alive.
Oh, very much so.
Hmm.
Imagine, for example, a lively festival or a community gathering.
Okay.
The energy of those stories comes alive through songs, dances, dramatic performances.
Yeah.
It's a way to experience history directly, not just through dusty old books, but through the vibrant voices of the community.
That would be incredible to witness, like stepping back in time.
Exactly. It makes history tangible, doesn't it? And it reminds us that folklore isn't just about preserving the past.
It's about keeping those narratives alive.
Allowing them to evolve, to resonate with each new generation.
So we've talked about how these stories served as vehicles for history, values, and culture.
Yes.
But did they ever play a more active role in shaping events? Did these stories inspire action, maybe even fuel political movements?
That's a really insightful question, and the answer is a resounding yes. Remember, literacy was limited back then.
Right.
Stories became the primary means of communication, reaching a far wider audience than any written document could.
Interesting.
They had immense power.
Power to what?
To inspire, to mobilize, to plant the seeds of resistance.
So they weren't just passive reflections of society. They were active agents of change.
Precisely. Think about the bards, the storytellers who traveled from village to village, recounting the tales of Maratha heroes.
Spreading their message through the sheer power of their words. Like the original social media influencers, almost.
Huh. I like that analogy. Their impact went way beyond mere entertainment. They were helping to shape a shared identity, foster a sense of unity, and encourage people to stand up for their rights.
So these stories weren't just about entertainment. They were about empowering communities.
Exactly. Instilling a sense of shared purpose. And that's where things get really fascinating because those narratives didn't just inspire individual acts of defiance.
No.
They helped to lay the groundwork for broader social and political movements.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How did that happen?
Well, put yourself in their shoes. Imagine hearing stories about your ancestors fighting for freedom, about their courage, their resilience.
It'd be hard not to be inspired, right?
Exactly. Those stories fostered a sense of shared history, a common purpose, and crucially, a belief in the possibility of change.
They were whispering promises for the future. That's like they were planting these seeds of hope.
Beautifully said. And that sense of hope, that belief in their own agency, was vital for igniting those larger social and political movements.
So those seemingly simple stories about heroes and villains played a far bigger role than you might initially think.
Absolutely. They helped to foster a culture of resistance.
Right.
They planted those seeds for social change. And, most importantly, they reminded people that they had the power to write their own story.
Wow. It's like those stories were sparks that eventually ignited a wildfire of change.
That's a great way to put it. And that's why exploring folklore is so captivating. It reveals these intricate ways in which stories shape not only our understanding of the past, but the very course of history itself.
It's incredible, isn't it? Those Maratha narratives are so much more than just stories. They're blueprints for resistance, tools for empowerment, testaments to the human spirit.
That's a powerful way to put it. And maybe, just maybe, as we face our own complex issues today, there are lessons we can learn from the Marathas and how they embrace storytelling as a force for social change.
I love that idea. We're not just digging up the past, we're unearthing wisdom that can guide us in the present.
Absolutely. By understanding how stories have inspired and mobilized people, we might find new ways to harness that power for ourselves and our own communities.
It's like recognizing the power within our own voices,
Yeah.
the stories we choose to tell, and the impact they can have on the world.
Each of us has a story, and those stories have the potential to create ripples of change that extend far beyond ourselves.
Just like those Maratha storytellers all those years ago. Wow, this has been a real eye-opener.
I'm glad to hear that.
I've gained a whole new appreciation for the power of storytelling.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's crucial to who we are and how we shape the world.
Exploring cultural narratives like these allows us to appreciate the timeless themes that connect us all.
It's like we're looking at a tapestry woven from all these different stories.
Wow.
Each thread, a different experience, a different perspective, but all coming together to create something beautiful and intricate and whole.
Beautifully put. And as we delve deeper into these narratives, we'll continue to learn about ourselves, the world around us, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit.
I can't wait to see where this journey takes us next. But for now, I think it's time to give our listeners a chance to process all this incredible information.
I agree.
We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up our exploration of Maratha folklore.
Sounds good. Until then, dear listeners, keep your minds curious and those hearts open to the power of stories.
And we're back, ready for more Maratha folklore. It's amazing to think about how these stories are actually still alive today.
It really is. And it's not just about remembering the past. It's about keeping those narratives vibrant, allowing them to connect with each new generation in meaningful ways.
So we've talked about how folklore was this incredible way to pass on history, values, their whole culture, really.
Exactly.
But did these stories ever play a more active role in shaping events? Like, were they used to inspire action, maybe even fuel political movements?
That's a great question. And the answer is a resounding yes. You have to remember that back then, literacy was limited. So stories became the main way people communicated ideas. They reached a far wider audience than any written document ever could.
Makes sense.
And because of that, they had incredible power. The power to inspire, to mobilize, to plant seeds of resistance.
Whoa, so they weren't just these passive reflections of society. They were like active agents of change.
Precisely. Think about those traveling bards, the storytellers who went from village to village, recounting tales of Maratha heroes.
Spreading their message through the sheer power of their words. Almost like the original social media influencers, right?
Ha! I love that analogy. They were shaping a shared identity, creating this feeling of unity, and encouraging people to fight for their rights. Their impact went way beyond just entertainment.
So it wasn't just about the stories themselves, it was about empowering communities.
Exactly, giving them a shared purpose. And that's where things get really fascinating, because these narratives didn't just inspire individual acts of defiance. They helped to create the foundation for much broader social and political movements.
Okay, now I'm really curious. How did that happen?
Well, imagine yourself hearing stories about your ancestors fighting for their freedom, about their incredible courage and resilience. Wouldn't you feel inspired to fight for your own rights?
Of course. It'd be like inheriting a legacy of resistance, a responsibility to keep fighting.
Exactly. These stories created this powerful sense of shared history, a common purpose. And crucially, they fostered a belief in the possibility of change. It's like they were whispering promises for the future.
Planting these tiny seeds of hope, reminding people that they had the power to change their own destiny.
Beautifully said. And that sense of hope, that belief in their own agency, was vital for igniting those larger movements.
So those simple stories about heroes and villains had a much deeper impact than you might think at first.
Absolutely. They helped to nurture a culture of resistance, and most importantly, they reminded people that they had the power to shape their own story.
Wow. It's like those stories were sparks that eventually grew into this wildfire of change.
A perfect analogy. And that's what makes exploring folklore so fascinating. It shows us how stories can shape not only how we understand the past, but also the course of history itself.
It's mind-blowing. Those Maratha narratives are so much more than just stories. They're like blueprints for resistance, Tools for empowerment, testaments to the enduring human spirit.
That's a powerful way to put it. And, as we struggle with our own complex issues today, maybe there are lessons we can learn from the Marathas, from how they used storytelling as a force for social change.
I love that. It's like we're not just digging up the past, we're unearthing wisdom that can guide us in the present.
Exactly. By understanding how stories have inspired and mobilized people throughout history, we might find new ways to harness that same power in our own lives, in our own communities.
It's about recognizing the power in our own voices, the stories we choose to tell, and the impact those stories can have on the world.
Each of us has a story, and those stories have incredible potential to create ripples of change that reach far beyond ourselves.
Just like those Maratha storytellers did, all those years ago. Wow, this has been eye-opening.
I was so glad to hear that.
I have a whole new appreciation for the power of storytelling.
It's a fundamental part of who we are, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It shapes us and the world around us.
Exploring cultural narratives like these helps us appreciate those timeless themes that connect us all.
It's like we're looking at this intricate tapestry woven from all these different stories.
I like that.
Each thread, a different experience, a different viewpoint, but all coming together to create something beautiful and complex and whole.
Beautifully put. And as we continue to explore these narratives, we'll keep learning about ourselves, the world around us, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit.
I can't wait to see where this journey takes us next.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, maybe we should give our listeners a moment to absorb all this incredible information.
Good idea.
We'll be right back to finish up our exploration of Maratha folklore.
Sounds great. Until then, keep those minds curious, those hearts open, and those ears attuned to the power of stories.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Maratha folklore. We've uncovered so much already, but there's always more to discover, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like peeling back layers of a fascinating onion, each layer revealing something new and intriguing.
And speaking of new layers, I'm curious about something. We've talked about how these stories were used to transmit history, values, all that.
Yes.
But did they ever go beyond that? Did they ever try to explain, like, the universe? Their place in the cosmos?
Oh, absolutely. Many of their narratives explore those big questions, the ones that have puzzled humanity for ages.
Like what?
The creation of the world, the nature of gods and goddesses, the whole dance between good and evil. It's like they were using stories to create a sense of order, of meaning in a world that could often feel very chaotic and unpredictable.
Especially when you consider the constant threats they faced from powerful empires. It makes sense that they'd look for those bigger explanations, those anchors of meaning.
Exactly. It's like they were building this mental map of the universe, trying to figure out where they fit in.
And do you think those beliefs, those cosmic explanations, actually influenced their actions in the real world?
Oh, for sure. Think about the famous story of Shivaji's escape from Agra. He disguised himself as a holy man to slip out of the Mughal court. Pure cunning and bravery.
I remember that story. A daring escape, for sure.
But some accounts suggest that before he made his escape, Shivaji sought blessings from a local deity.
Ah, so he wasn't just relying on his own skills, he was also seeking divine protection, guidance.
Exactly. That belief in a higher power, the idea that gods and goddesses could intervene in their lives, it shows up again and again in Maratha tales.
It speaks to a deeply spiritual worldview. They weren't just characters in stories, they were forces that could shape destiny.
Right, and that's what makes folklore so powerful, isn't it? It gives us this glimpse into a culture's soul, their beliefs, their hopes, their fears.
Absolutely. So we've talked about how these stories shaped the Maratha people.
Yes.
But what about us? What can we learn from them today? Why should we care about these tales from centuries ago?
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? By exploring the folklore of any culture, we open a window into their world. We understand their history, their values, the challenges they faced.
And maybe even gain some wisdom that's relevant to our own lives.
Precisely. These stories teach us about resilience, about the power of community, about standing up for what you believe in. Those themes are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago.
Like these Maratha tales are these bridges across time reminding us that we're not alone in our struggles.
Beautifully said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Maratha folklore, I encourage you, our listeners, to explore the stories of your own heritage or any culture that sparks your interest.
It's a journey worth taking. You might even discover a story that's been passed down through your own family for generations.
Exactly. It's like unearthing a hidden treasure, a piece of your own history just waiting to be brought back to life.
I love that. And remember, everyone, these stories aren't just entertainment. They're reflections of who we are. They can offer guidance, inspiration. They remind us of our shared humanity.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been a truly fascinating exploration. Thank you so much for guiding us through the world of Maratha folklore.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to our listeners, keep those minds curious, those hearts open, and always be on the lookout for a good story. You never know what you might discover.
Wise words.
Until next time, happy deep diving, everyone.